Okay. Hey, so now we're recording the class. Let me tell you, remind you guys about a couple things. Number one is a reminder that your final slides are due this Sunday night, 11:59 p.m. Um, I did receive 2 or 3 presentations, but I can't go over them all here. So what I committed to do is today I'm going to do just class material. On Thursday, I will spend the whole class time just on presentations and giving you guys feedback on those things. So Thursday's class will be optional. Okay, so just so that you know that, I will not take attendance on Thursday's class. Thursday's class is optional if you want to hear feedback on all the newer presentations that I'll get before Thursday, and I'll give you guys feedback so that you can set yourself up for that A when you turn in your final presentation, okay? So Thursday's class, I'm just going over presentations. I've got 2 or 3 already. If the other teams want to send me some stuff, we'll go ahead and take care of that too. Okay, so that's Thursday's class. A reminder for your final exam, when we take our final exam, it'll be via a video Zoom. So please make sure that you have video capabilities, and because I need to see you take your exam, okay? And I'll have more instructions as we get closer. I would definitely recommend in the next class or two, or if you can today, if you want to, go with the video feed just to make sure that I can see you, that the camera's working. Like, let's work out all the kinks ahead of time so that you don't have to worry anything on the exam day, okay? If you have an issue with a computer and having a camera or video, then option B would be a few days beforehand. I will actually call and we'll do a phone interview or a FaceTime interview with you so that I can do the exam via interview style. So I'll just ask you a question. I'll say, hey, talk to me a little bit about this, and then give you a second to think about it, and then you go. So if you don't have the ability to have a video feed, let me know that. I think there's 1 or 2 of you that have some challenges with that. If you don't have access to a computer between now and then, make sure that you let me know. But the final will be more of an interview style or FaceTime, whichever one you could do. Okay. Any questions on that? That's for the final.
How is the exam going to be graded if we're writing it down on paper?
I'll give you more details as we get close. Yeah, I'll give you guys some more details as we get close. I may open up a discussion within Canvas and give you the 5 questions and say, go, write, answer within Canvas. And then you just write within the discussion, you answer the questions. I might do it that way. I'm still working that piece of it out. I don't want it to be too much of a burden, but I don't want to make it too much work either. So we'll figure that out. But it's not going to make you do a whole bunch of extra stuff. The thing with the phone today, that was just kind of an unusual thing. In terms of study guide, there's not going to be like a study guide. I would tell you that, I think I might have given you guys something at the, oh, no, I didn't. I would just say, review the slides, review your notes from the classes. Sometimes when I do study guides, 2 things happen. One is, the one I have is very comprehensive, so it'll probably freak you out. You'd be thinking like, there's no way I know all this stuff. So I don't want to do that. And at the second time, sometimes I may include something that's not on the study guide, like something that I just talked about in the class that if you were on the lecture that you would have got. So the best advice I have for you is all the notes that you've been taking in the first half of the semester and anything from these videos would be fair game for the exam. Okay. But I'm not going to give you like a list of learn these 6 things in each chapter or something like that, because that, I want you to really understand the overall content. There was a question on what chapters, and who can answer that? What chapters are the final going to be on? Anybody?
All of them. Didn't we vote on all of them?
Yeah, the good ones. All of them. So basically, you guys chose as a group to do it cumulative, kind of more surface level. So basically, all the chapters that are in the syllabus. There's 2 or 3 of them that we will not have covered like in a lecture, but make sure you read them. It'll probably, I don't know, be anywhere between 5 to 10 short answer questions. And that's what it'll be on, okay? So, make sure you give yourself time to study and plan ahead and that kind of stuff, okay? Any other questions on the final exam? Okay. Again, make sure your video feed is working. In fact, I would recommend that maybe Thursday's class, or for sure next Tuesday, if everybody could log on via video, let's just make sure that we're really good. I don't want to have you do it now because some people, they might be in their pajamas or their hair might be all jacked up, and that's totally, I understand, I get that. But I would say for next Thursday, for Tuesday at least, let's make sure your video is working. Okay. Let's see here. Don't forget that your final presentation is due not too long from now, right? When is the final presentation due in terms of the upload on Canvas? Anybody remember?
12.
The 12th. The 19th.
That's for the 5 to 7 minute video.
That's what the what?
5 to 7 minute video of our slides. Presentation.
That's due when? The 5 to 7 minute?
The 19th, just what Anna wrote on the chat.
Got it. What's due the 12th?
Slide.
Oh, that's right. The slides are due the 12th. Okay. Yeah, slides are due the 12th, and then the 19th, your video upload is due. So again, please do not wait till that Saturday or Sunday to start trying to figure things out. Your presentation is 100% due 11:59 p.m. on Sunday. Okay, so if you can upload your file, great. If you want to create a YouTube channel and put your link in Canvas in the comment section, that's fine too. But something has to be in Canvas by 11:59 p.m. that I can click on, that's a file or a link for your project. If you want to test it and put something up sooner, like this week, just like a 10-second test, work that out. Please do not wait till Sunday and wait to try to upload it and not work out the kinks and that kind of stuff, because we have plenty of time to do that. Okay. Everything must be, yeah. So can you message it to me in Canvas? So what you could do is you go to Canvas, you go to the assignment, and in the assignment, there's like a little comment section or something. Within that, send me the link if you do it there, or you can upload it. But don't send it to me in a separate email. Don't send me an announcement in Canvas or respond to an announcement. It has to be something unique in your kind of unique file in Canvas. Okay. So that's due on the 19th. So everybody will get the same grade on your team for your presentations, but there will be some subtle differences on the actual video presentation depending on how prepared you are and that kind of stuff. Okay. Any questions before I move on? We good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for the presentation itself, do you want us all to be make a script beforehand and everybody reads the script the same way on the presentation, or is everybody that's separate?
Everybody has the same slides, but everybody does their own thing. So
Okay.
your presentation might be slightly different than Deborah's presentation, meaning that the points might be the same, but what you guys emphasize and the words you use, I mean, it make it you. So I do not recommend writing one speech and giving it to everybody. That you don't want to do that. You could talk it through and that kind of thing, but don't write one speech and give it to everybody. That won't work. I want you to be the best you that you can be. That'll get you the highest grade. Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else have questions? All right, so we're getting ready to come down to the wire, and I just caution you about the deadlines because everybody's settled in at home now. Make sure that you plan ahead and don't put yourself in a crisis mode where, oh goodness, I can't upload stuff now or something like that. So this is what I will do on the day of your presentation, or when you when you make your presentation, all you need to do is just send me your video upload. I will have a copy of your presentation handy, and you could just, talk to it on your screen to yourself so you know where you're at, or print it out for yourself. But as you're talking, just guide me through it. Say, hey, as you can see on this cover page, we're talking about so-and-so. Hey, let's go to this next slide. That's the table of contents. As you can see, like, guide me a little bit, but I should be able to follow you based on what you're talking about. So what I don't want to do is make it more burdensome for you by having you to figure out a way to put the slides up and your video up at the same time. If you could do it, great, but I'll be able to follow you. What's most important is a high quality, complete video. Okay?
Is it just us like showing our?
What's
Is it
that?
just us showing our face?
Yeah, it's just like me. It's just like this call right now, like I'm with you.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, so you don't have to be standing up and all dressed up. Just, look good, be in a professional environment. Think of it as if you were interviewing for a job with that company. Okay, just like, again, if you were like Best Buy, dress like you would be working at Best Buy and dress casual. But again, the most important thing I'm looking for right off the bat is, are you treating me like a client? I'm not your professor. You're not my student during that time. You are a hired consultant, providing some valuable insight. Okay. All right. Any last minute questions before I move on? All right. So let me go ahead and I'm gonna present now, so that we can go through some lecture material. Right. So you might want to, if you want to take some notes, now would be a time to kind of get ready to do that. Let me pull the presentation I want to get up here. Present now, my entire screen. Okay. All right. I can't see you guys anymore. Can somebody give me a verbal okay that you could see the slides, or
Yeah.
do
We do
you not see
see.
the slides? Yeah. Cool. Hey, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Can you guys see him okay?
Yes.
All right, excellent, cool. All right, hey, so listen, we've talked already about decision making and planning. We've talked about leadership last week. We've talked about organizations and culture and how they work. We talked a little bit about organizational behavior, right? Those are 3 of the 4 kind of functions of management. Today we're going to talk about controls, the final one. We also talked a lot about some foundational elements in the world of management, right? We talked about globalization. We talked about ethics. We talked about the external and the internal environment. We've really set up a really good foundation for you, and hopefully have intrigued you in a variety of different areas of management. For some of you, you've come to me and said, hey, listen, I kind of want to get into HR. I mean, that really interests me. Some people have said, you know what, I can't wait to get into controls because I like compliance and all that kind of stuff, and I think that will offer some help in that area. So this last area of management, we're winding down the course. I only have 2 chapters left of material. Okay, that's why today we're just going to go over this chapter. Thursday we'll go over presentations for anybody that wants to be on for that call. The next Tuesday we'll go over chapter 20, which is the second part of controls, and then next Thursday we'll finish it up, and then we'll kind of start thinking about the final. Okay, so when we think about the this idea of controls, let's look at it in the context of the management process. As you can see here, that these 4 functions of management can work independently and in tandem with each other. If an executive dies in a corporation, that organization may have to move into the decision-making and planning stage. They may have to move into the leadership phase. They may have to do some reorganizing. If a company has explosive growth, they may have to adjust. So let me ask you guys a question right now. what kind of things in the management process in terms of organizing, decision-making, planning, leading, let's look at those three right now. In what areas do you think the company Zoom has been impacted by one of these? How have they had to operate in one of these spaces? Let me hear from somebody that I haven't heard from in the last couple of calls. What do you guys think? The company Zoom, they've had to deal with decisions and planning, organizing and leading. What kind of in what ways have they been impacted?
They've probably had to do a lot of organizing, trying to figure out how to get as many people on the platform as there needs to be, and just kind of like control the whole basis of their platform so that it doesn't crash when everyone needs to use it all of a sudden.
Yeah, outstanding answer. And you're right, Zoom. I wish I'd owned stock in Zoom a couple years ago, because now what's happened is everybody's leaning on Zoom. Zoom gets you because they give you a free service that you can have a call up to 40 minutes with 5 people, and it's free, and you could do that, and that works out good. But it stops you at 40 minutes. So what they've done is, if they've had an enormous amount of people buying the premium version of Zoom that allows you to have up to 250 people and have, I think, like a 10-hour call or something like that. So they've had to reorganize their infrastructure. More people are videotaping stuff through Zoom, like we're doing it through Google Hangout, but all that server storage space in the terabytes, that's got to be redone. They've had to develop some new teams to handle some of this crisis management stuff. They've had people that have had to deal with glitches and that kind of thing. Now they're getting a lot of calls from people that are bombing, Zoom calls. So, like, for example, like with you guys, I have your BIOLA email embedded in the back of everything, so we have record of that. But and you can only kind of get in within a BIOLA kind of email if you have that in the background, if you open it within the Canvas or the Google Hangouts. But if you weren't part of the call and you logged in, it would identify it right away. We could block you. So, all right, so that's one. They had to reorganize. How about in terms of making any new type of decisions or planning? What do you guys think? What has Zoom had to do? Have they raised their prices? Does anybody know? They haven't. They haven't raised their prices.
They
But
they have to sort of decide what's going to be important, like whether they're going to focus on expansion or security or whatever. Because some people, like Elon Musk, is not letting Tesla or SpaceX use Zoom over security concerns. So that's going to take a lot of planning to figure out what their priorities are and stuff like that.
outstanding. You're right. Security issues and that type of thing. Incredible what's going on out there. Okay, I have a client of mine who does digital signatures for people, that, buying houses and all that kind of stuff. And he'd been kind of getting ready to close the doors because some big companies like Doc Verify is out there and does this stuff, and they have a big presence. Well, this small company, they didn't have a lot of people, a lot of clients. I talked to them yesterday. I was even telling them, like, hey, you might want to close up shop and take your losses, because you're not able to compete with these larger companies. And all of a sudden he called me yesterday. He's like, Jake, and he shared his screen. He called me via Zoom, and he shared his screen with me. In the last 3 days, he's made, on average, you guys ready for this? On average, about $70,000 a day in doing these type of signatures, because nobody wants to leave their house. So his business, where at one point was not really didn't have a distinctive competence, something that separated themselves from other people and other organizations, has all of a sudden become high in demand, being at the right place at the right time. All right. So what is a control? Right? A control is the regulation of some kind of activity in a way to facilitate goal attainment within an organization. For example, when we think of control, do not think of it as somebody's trying to control another person. Sometimes we think about that. I want you to think about controls as something that's put in place as a device to trigger when something's not working well. For example, on our cell phones, we have controls, right? When our phone gets too hot, a control turns it off. Okay. We can actually set our phone with an alarm so we don't oversleep. Our goal is to not oversleep. We can set the alarm, and as of that, what ends up happening is it wakes us up. Okay. In your car, you have maybe a digital or analog speedometer that tells you how fast you're going. That's a control, so that you know how fast you're going. Your gas tank gauge, when it gets down to half a tank or a quarter tank or eighth of a tank, that's a control. It's letting you know that you may not have enough fuel in the near future. Microwaves. When you put, we've been like eating a lot of popcorn during this thing, so we pop it in the microwave, and we don't put on a certain timer. We hit sense, S-E-N-S-E, and the microwave heats up the popcorn, and it pops, and it senses it with some internal controls, and it tells it when to stop. Okay? And we can go on for days. Banks have controls in their ATMs that tell it once it gets below a certain amount of cash that it triggers a notice for people to come and refill it. Okay? If you happen to have the Ring at your house, like the little video camera in your doorbell, it's got a control. When somebody passes by and activates the sensor, the control kicks on the camera so you know what's going on. So you get the gist of it. So a control in the sense of management is really regulating organizational activities to align with a specific goal. All right? FedEx has controls in place, right? They could tell at any given point around the country what percentage of their packages are being delivered on time, and down to the 100th of a percent. And if it's not, being delivered, it'll tell them the number will turn, let's say yellow, and if it goes below, let's say 90, it turns red. There's a control in place to inform people or inform decision makers that something's going on. Okay. For those of you that have laptop computers or a desktop computer or even your phone, there's a control process in place, a quality control process in place at the manufacturer that your device has to pass that in order to be certified to be sold on the market and distributed. Right? So if they do a test on your phone and they tap it and the glass and it breaks, and it's one of those like very few 1 out of 1,000 that maybe doesn't meet the criteria, there's a control system in place to make sure that phone never leaves out, right? And then I think we use the example of Jelly Bellies, right? Jelly Bellies, they go through the factory, they have to come out and they have to be perfect. Like each flavor has to be made exactly by the formula. The shapes have to be right on. They can't be deformed. They have to be perfect. They go through a quality control process where the bad ones are picked out and put in a separate pile. And they used to be thrown away. But now they actually package them up and sell them as something called belly flops. And you find them in the 99-cent stores and those kind of things. Okay? So those are the type of controls that we see in place. So who's in charge of controls? Well, in essence, in the workplace today, everybody is. And the reason I tell you that is because in years past, controls generally were, the responsibility was put on certain departments or certain leaders. But today, with our ability to do more knowledge work and critical thinking, more and more is put upon the employee to be able to be another pair of eyes and ears for quality control. and for controls, right? So if you see something unethical in the workplace, it's your responsibility as a human control system to say that person was just verbally harassed. That's not right. I need to act because that's not in alignment with the culture or our company objectives or our code of ethics. Okay, so today it's really everybody's responsibility to serve as a control mechanism for the organizations they work. I don't see this term as much anymore. Controller, like a company's controller. That was more popular in the 70s and 80s. It was the person that oversaw, quality control, accounting, supply chain management, and that kind of stuff. I don't see that term as often anymore. It still exists, but it's not used that often. Okay. Let me see what else I want to show you. If you remember our triangle that talked about strategic goals, we looked at operational goals, and we kind of looked at our mid-level goals. Or we look at high-level managers, mid-level managers, and lower-level managers, right? High-level managers are much more conceptual. They look long-term, 5 to 7 years. They don't get into the weeds. They kind of set some generic direction. Mid-level managers have to take the conceptual information and have to make more sense out of it. Then they roll that down to the first line managers. Mid-level managers is more short, midterm, right? Maybe 3 to 5 years, or 3 to 5 years maybe. Again, they're more connected to both the vagueness, and they have to go back to their bosses sometimes, but they also have to speak to the employees and help the vague or the concept vision come alive to the front line. And then you have your frontline managers who, the goals could be daily or they could be annually. But these are the first line people. Let's say, imagine the manager at Starbucks or Chick-fil-A or In-N-Out Burger. They're focused on their location, how much supplies they have today. Like, think about it. The manager at, let's say, Taco Bell right now, they have to make sure that they have enough supplies. Does anybody know what Taco Bell's doing today?
They're giving out free tacos.
Awesome. Who was that?
Mark Snyder.
Snyder. I didn't look at all the things, but if you did not do the videos, you just got credit for 10% on your final exam. Good job.
I did the videos, but thank you.
Hey, dude, you got another 5%. That's all good.
Awesome, thank you.
Hey guys, if you stay on top of it, you participate. This is the kind of stuff that happens. Any little bit counts. But yeah, they're giving away free tacos. So my daughter's friend and his buddy jumped in the car and they hit 4 Taco Bells because you get 1 taco free, and then they go around and they hit 4 of them. So they got 8 tacos between the 2 of them, 4 at one at each location. You know where they get you? On the sodas. So that's where they make their money. So I would not recommend going and getting tacos, guys. It's just not worth it. Okay, but free tacos, that's what they're doing, and that type of thing. All right, let's move on. All right, so we talked about strategic control at the highest level. And really a term that I want to get to you now is this idea of bureaucratic controls. Some of you may have had a job where if you wanted to get something done, you had to jump through a lot of red tape. I'll give you an example. When I worked at the bank, I had a credit card with a X amount of credit line available. And as long as I stayed below that credit line, and each month I just kind of submitted my expenses, my business-related expenses, they were covered, no questions asked, because I would say, who I had lunch with, what we covered, or what piece of equipment that we bought for the business, and that type of thing, Another company I worked for, if I just wanted to spend $100, I needed to get it approved in advance. I needed to have an email approved. Then I needed to send something in a program, and they approved it and sent it back to me after 2 more people approved it. And it would take me 2 weeks to get approval to get $100 worth of printer cartridges for my team. A lot of red tape, a lot of bureaucratic control. Okay. So that's just something I want you to be thinking about. What a great question for an exam. Okay. Another idea that we think about when we think about structural control is this idea of centralized versus decentralized control. Okay. When things are decentralized, you tend to see a little bit less red tape. For example, if BMW, they're out of Germany, right? It's one big global company, and they have a centralized plan and vision, and certain things have to be run through that central division. But BMW also has subdivisions. BMW North America, let's say BMW Australia, I don't know, BMW, Asia. And each one of those operate a little bit more independently and are customized for that region, right? Because there are different guidelines that different countries have regarding emission standards and the way cars are designed, right? In Europe, cars are designed with the driver's seat on the right side of the car. Here, they're designed on the left side of the car. So, different types of testing that has to be done is just different. The engineering is different. So being a little bit more decentralized sometimes happens. Think about your group projects, right? I'm giving you some centralized guidance, but then you guys go do your own little thing. And, as long as you stay within the guidelines of the path, each one of you have a different business you're tackling and doing a SWOT analysis on. So you're operating a little bit more decentralized in that world. Okay? If I was to give you an example of a more centralized thing, I would say everybody does the same company. Everybody each week is showing each other what they have, and we all stay in this guideline within the same company. But that's not the case. Okay? Centralized versus decentralized controls and bureaucratic control, red tape. Okay? Operations controls. Okay? Focusing on the process used by organizations to transform inputs into outputs. So I want to go into 3 thoughts here, and we're almost done. When we think in operations control, think about yourself of being an owner of a company, and you want to build cars. You do not only have controls when you're building the car or right before you sell it, you take it on a test drive to make sure it works. There is a lot of other controls that need to occur before, during, and after the process. For example, up front, you have preliminary controls. So if we operated a car company together, we would have a control up front to make sure that we're hiring the right people. So if we're hiring a mechanic, we are putting controls into place to make sure that they have the right education. Maybe they need to be certified in some capacity. Maybe they need to speak a certain language. Maybe they need to have experience with, a certain system within the car, air conditioning, brakes, whatever the case may be. So in order to make sure that we are doing the right job, we have a preliminary control in place to make sure that we're hiring the right people. So for those of you guys that are interviewing for jobs, that's a preliminary control for that organization to ensure that they're hiring the right person. There's a mechanism in place to weed out and take out any potential misalignments or poor fits within the organization. So let's say we hire people that, somebody who's an inspector to make sure that the the brake lights the way that the brake lights fit on the car are on the right way. So we hire the right person, and then we put that person to work. And what that person does, and I'm going to show you a picture in a second, that person during the assembly line process is looking at that car as it's coming down the line to ensure that those things are done are correct. If the light is kind of twisted or it's not working, the screening control during the production process highlights and identifies that and lets us know that something's wrong so we can fix it. And then the post-transaction control process is basically something we do at the end before we, let's say, go to market to sell. So let's look at this as a visual. So you and I started an auto company. We hire the right people, okay? We then put that person to work, and let's say over here in that middle section over to the right, you have a person that's kind of looking at that back light, maybe checking the quality of the paint, maybe looking at the alignment of the hatchback to make sure it meets certain specifications, right? The people right to the left of that in the middle, maybe they're checking to see how the door is shut, what the rubber looks like in between the sill to make sure that everything is done. Again, as the car is moving down the assembly line, it's being evaluated for consistency and quality standards. And then finally, the post-action control is we hop in the car, take a drive around the track, run it around for 5 miles or so, make sure we don't hear any weird noises or that, and that it meets all the standards. And then boom, we go to market. So a really important thing I want you to understand about controls is knowing what control is, some samples of controls, and that controls happen in different stages of the process. Okay? All right. Hey, there are financial controls too, right? So can somebody tell me a financial control within an organization? What is something that kind of raises a flag or something that a control that helps you manage a business better?
Definitely when one of the clients, or no, take that back, one of the sales representative is not meeting the weekly goal of, let's say, $5,000 per sale, and
Okay.
so depending on how many customers they reach per week, they either get a bonus or they do not get a bonus, if depending on how many customers they have seen or have brought into the business as a potential,
I got it. Yeah, you're good. So that, basically, you may have people that have a sales goal or they're supposed to call a certain amount of people, and by them logging in, you could tell how much time they've been online, how many calls that they've made, and then they can code it like reach them, call back later, connected, prospect, sale in process, sold. And there's some metrics to tell us how they're doing. And if over many years, if you're in the sales process, you may lose your job or you may get promoted. So, okay, so that's one type. What else? Anybody?
What about budgeting?
Oh, budgeting. So, right, you set up a budget, and if you go over, right? Like, if you're supposed to not spend more than X amount of money, that happens. Like, for example, I don't know if you guys have this, but if you don't, I recommend it. In your bank account, you can set a little alert to tell you if your balance has dropped below a certain amount. Okay, right? The bank has control. When you go negative, you get an email or a text right away, right? It just says, hey, your account is overdrawn, you're negative $22, or hey, you know what? Please get in, deposit something before the end of the day. Your account is going negative, or we did not accept that check that was submitted. That's a bank control. But you may have something in your bank account that says, hey, Chase Bank, B of A, Wells, if my account drops below, I don't know, $100, let me know. So my wife and I, we have a thing in our account that says when it drops below this amount, hey, can you just give us an FYI? So when it drops below, let's say, I don't know, $500, we both get an email that says, you know, hey, you dropped below your balance. And then we can click on that and it says, you're at $6. And we're like, oh my goodness, what happened? And we can see, like, if was it fraud? Oh, hey, you know, this tuition payment got withdrawn and we didn't remember that or something like that. But it gives us a chance to adjust before something bad happens. Or it could just be fraud. Like I said, it could be fraud and we're alerted to that and we can act appropriately. Or it's just a heads up to move some more money over from savings or something like that. Okay. Other financial controls, profit and loss statements, balance sheets, accounts payable, accounts revenue reports, all the different types of reports that we see that are used in accounting and by the finance and budgeting team. Those are controls to tell us whether we're on track or not. So a lot of organizations right now, they are putting together forecasts saying if nothing changes, and based on our these reports, what is our next phase? You know, is somebody going to get laid off? Is somebody going to who's going to get laid off? And when are they going to get laid off? And do we have a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3? Okay, so that just gives you an idea. Finance, budgetary controls. Okay, let me see what else I want to show you. You know, in companies, budgets usually roll upwards. So, for example, let's say, you know, you guys are the students in blue. You're my employees, and you guys are the management department. I'm like, all right, team, we have $1,000 to do grade us on this exam. You guys might say, okay, let's hire a tutor with that 1,000, half this, half there. Whereas the team that reports to another person may spend that money differently. But each team of blue has $1,000. You guys might spend it differently. That $1,000 then rolls up to the yellow level. So each one orange leader has $1,000 that's spent differently. And at the yellow level, there's a total of the budget was $3,000 overall. So the overall budget was $3,000, the division budget was $1,000, and the operating budget was each $250. So even though it's spent differently between the divisions, the departments, and the people, we can tell at any one given time who's on budget, who's not on budget, who's projected to go over budget, and maybe we need to pull from somewhere else and that type of thing. Okay? Okay, let me see what else I want to show you here. Okay, I think that may be that's it that I want to show you guys there. So let me stop sharing my screen and come back to you guys here. Okay, cool. So that's all I have for you guys today. Make sure you read the chapters on controls. I will send you guys out another little note today for like 1 or 2 more videos that you want to stay on top of and take a look at to kind of keep things going. Thursday's class again is in fact optional. If you want some feedback or if your presentation is going to be covered that day, you might want to be on and check that out. Okay. Let me think of what else I need to tell you guys. Presentation slides due this weekend. Your video presentation due next weekend. And then I have one final ask for you, and this is important. If you have a team member who has not been pulling their weight, who has been not responsive or just waiting for other people to do the work, please email me and let me know that. I promise that I will not relay things anonymous. You know, I'm not going to say so-and-so said that, but usually every semester I have 1 or 2 individuals that maybe didn't really pull their load, and maybe another person really had to step up and do their work for them. That person that did the work should be rewarded and will be rewarded for that extra work. At the same point, the person that didn't do the work, you know, it's important that we as Christians in a lovingly way hold each other accountable. So I would just ask if you got anybody in your team that really stood out, that pulled the load for the team and was a true leader and went above and beyond the call of duty. Let me know that. In a private email, don't CC anybody. Just send it to me. Just be like, hey, Prof, this is so and so. I wanted to let you know that Joanna really stepped it up. So and so was sick for a couple of days. That person stepped in, or they really kept this project together as a leader. Let me know that stuff. At the same time, I just ask you to be very, very honest. Look at your team, and if there is a person that did not do their part or has been writing coattails, it's not a matter of tattling on them. It's being honest. Everybody's had the chance to work on this project, has had the same tools, the same amount of time. If somebody hasn't been pulling their load, it's very, very important that you let me know that, like today. Like I want to know that, okay? I promise that I will not say so-and-so called this person out. You know, usually what ends up happening is 2 or 3 out of the 4 members all email me, so I kind of know who it is. And it gives me a good sense of kind of what's happening, okay? So I just ask for you to share that with me. Let me open it up for any final questions. I'm going to look at the chat now thing to see if I missed anything. Any other questions? I have the chat up, and then I'm available video wise. Any questions? We good? All right, cool. So having said that, I'm going to go ahead and stop the video. And if you want to stay here for a minute,